Hello everybody, welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. As always, I'm also post on Rumble and I'm on these socials here, especially on Twitter. Not much happening, but still some interesting things to go through. There is a thing from ASUS introducing like the RTX 4090 TUF OG series, which is basically, from what I can gather from the article, it's basically the same board. It utilizes the same board of the 3090 Ti, yeah, and the same cooler. So it's kind of smaller. But the interesting fact is they are using old PCBs because the PCBs are kind of different. The way they matched up here, this is the power delivery capacitors, I think it's called the MOSFETs, if I'm not mistaken, are these little round things. The memory layout, it's the same here, I think, with this VRAM stuff here. The power delivery is different, but the pins, internal pin layout or whatever they wanted to they call it, it's kind of the same, so it's compatible. Which brings me to the fact that this should be a cheaper GPU. I don't think it's going to be a cheaper GPU, even though because manufacturing process of these new boards supposedly will cost more because it's new. This is supposedly on stock somewhere, somehow. Of course, the components are not from the 3090 Ti, mainly because of power delivery and of course the chip itself and the memory. I'm not sure if it is like the same VRAM kind of modules. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's interesting to see these kind of things. They try. We already saw this on the possibility of the 4060 utilizing the same PCB port of the 3060, if not mistaken, or the 3060 Ti, something like that. And still, this I don't believe this is going to reflect on any kind of discounts on the 40, especially the 4090 TUF series or whatever it is. After it comes out, we should see if it is like some lowering on the price. I don't know. It's this kind of shenanigans here. Of course, this ASUS can only do this with the authorization with NVIDIA, I think. I suppose. So NVIDIA just want to squeeze out the money out of us, and basically that's my my conclusion on this matter. I don't think we're going to see any kind of price drop, especially on this kind of models that they're using like older stuff. Because if you use newer stuff, you can justify it, but it's all new and all new design and everything. But if you're using old components from a previous generation GPUs, I don't know why you cannot at least lower a little bit. I don't know how the bill of the components, how much it is or where it is not, depending. But I think that there should be something accompanying this kind of statements. I said now we can make taking advantage of this older PCB, the performance is the same, but we can manage to make it a little bit cheaper. I don't know, $50 off, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, but basically this is it. We got an interesting thing here from AMD Capsaicin graphics framework. From what I can gather, this is kind of a thing to work on to work around the DirectX 12 API. And has to be the main takeaway from they're trying to convey. It's like global illumination thing here. It's regarding ray tracing, and I think it supposedly is going to make easier the work on the developers on the gaming. Instead of trying to basically you can write algorithms to basically automate these kind of things of the tone mappings and global illumination, and the process more agilized, if that's a word, regarding the game development. It is the main takeaway from this. It's always good to see. At least this should, to a certain degree, lower. I don't know how amount of time, but should lower a little bit the time development and supposedly the cost of the game development, which is something that we are seeing increasing a lot. But yeah, this is mainly for AMD stuff. Radeon technologies and everything from the GPUs, but we are not going to see this kind of solution right now. This is just launched. It's like a framework, so it will take time to get patched because some errors going to be found for sure, depending on the scenarios. And I don't know, maybe 2 years from now, we might see something like this on implemented on gaming development. I don't know. But yeah, basically this is it for this one. It's interesting to see that improving on the technologies to best serve, especially if it is especially served to the final consumer. Now we got here the PCIe 5 SSDs. I'm not very fancy on these ones because since the beginning there was because this these SSDs are more fast, and to a certain degree, when you want to things go faster electronically, you have to deliver more power, and more power always generates more heat. And this is basically the issue with these new SSDs. You have to have like an active cooling system solution for the proprietary for the SSD, or have like a big passive cooling solution, which is not especially the active cooling. It's like small fans. They usually grip out after a few months or something like that. Sometimes, especially if it is like an SSD that works a lot, and the fan is always needs to always work. You have also the noise stuff here. I remember having like I don't even remember. It was still at the time when the motherboards have North Bridge and South Bridge. They didn't have like a control that controls everything, the communication between everything. We had like the North Bridge and the South Bridge controllers. I think the South Bridge was about the PCIe things to control then to the CPU, and then we have the North Bridge which control a lot of the other stuff. I think it was very old, and I remember that time these controllers need to be actively cooled, the most important ones, and the fans will always grip like I don't know 6 months to 1 year, if you were an intense user of components like this. And this is the fact that it is a vital component that needs like active cooling that might fail, or huge amounts of passive cooling, and still it's not guaranteed. If you use a lot, when you reach certain temperature thresholds, some errors will start to generate, and this is what happened. Basically, it's happening. It was a problem with the controller. I think this is the main. These guys, how they call it, Phoronix. Are like the controller manufacturers of basically most of PCIe 5 SSDs. I think they got around it, but still, there is no like the direct storage stuff. It's not well suited still to take advantage of the full operational speeds of this new SSD. So at the moment, if you are a light user, or even like for games, I think even PCIe generation 3, it's okay. It's like by just cheap SSDs, you will not notice basically any difference on especially on gaming. You will not notice basically any difference on loading times, or even in performance. It's more about production apps that have high demand to access the SSD. Usually it's like video editing, when you need to go through timelines and everything to make it smoother and everything. You might take some advantage of this kind of newer PCIe version 5 or even 4 SSDs. But yeah, it's a thing that's going to happen, especially with temperatures. The more power you have to deliver, because these ones need basically 10 watts of power, which is a lot. I'm not sure. It's like, I think that even HDDs work with less power. I think usually when they are active. I'm not sure. It's something. It's my rough idea of things. But yeah, pay attention when you buy one of these PCIe 5. They always need minimum huge passive cooling solution, because some of them are sold like this, bare bones. So that then you can integrate your own cooling solution. And usually now with these new motherboards, they already have this passive cooling stuff. That's why they are more bulky, and sometimes there are some things that it's more difficult to introduce, like some GPUs or even like some coolers, CPU coolers. Sometimes because of the space that these like SSDs coolers, the space they occupy on the board. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now we are going for the patch 4, but I don't think they resolve basically the stuttering issue. They introduce a lot of improvements, but the stuttering issues, they address some of them, like traversal stuttering issues, which basically tells me they didn't solve the stuttering issues at all. They solve part of them. But then they put more improvements for ray tracing, streaming budgets, updated streaming budgets. That rest there was we'll see how it goes. What I know, it's still not the stuttering issues in an overall scheme of things is not solved, and yeah, it's I don't know how many weeks we are after the launch of this one. 1 month almost, and still not completely fixed. That's why always wait for reviews from independent reviewers and then vote with your wallet. If the game is not good, if it has like performance issues, especially this kind of thing of stuttering issues, or like frame rates are not good, whatever it is, don't buy the game. It's in the long term will help out us consumers to let these guys know that we are not going to buy games unless they are properly functioning without any performance issues. Whatever franchise it is, can be my favorite franchise of all time. If it is not in good shape when it launches, I will not. You will not buy it. I will not buy it. Nobody will buy it until it's fixed. And then they have to then start thinking about when they launch games usually in the state they have been launching, which is a mess, most of them. You don't see this usually with indie titles. Usually you see it more with like balancing issues on the mechanics of the game. But usually performance-wise, usually see them working properly. So they are less complicated, okay, but they also are with less budget and with less people than AAA studios, and they have less money to work with. But yeah, just don't buy the games or even pre-order them unless it's not even less. Don't pre-order games. Just screw the pre-order stuff, because this is always a catch for them to get money before they launch the game, to get money out of you, and then they serve you a service that is not in good conditions. Basically, this is my take from pre-orders and buying games when they launch without checking reviews to see if it's independent reviewers, because I don't trust. I can get it like a reference. I don't trust even like IGN, GameSpot, all these big ones. I don't trust them because I don't know how they work. If it is like favor one hand washes the other, usually they just they are too smooth and too soft on the companies. So I prefer independent gamers or independent reviewers that do their own work without the need to count with favors from the industry. But yeah, next we got Dragon Age 4. Supposedly it's not going to release before April 2024. Supposedly there were some kind of rumors going around it will launch this year, but there was like a conference call with the quarterly earnings or the early earnings or something like that, or the financial report of the fiscal year, and for this upcoming fiscal year there was nothing mentioning this Dragon Age 4, and also some other game, Skate, also was not mentioned. Supposedly was about to launch this year, so forget about it. We should not see this game. Usually they don't lie on this kind of financial reports, because if you lie you'll get sued by the FCC. I don't know which governmental agency is taking care of this one. But yeah, no Dragon Age 4, even though I think they have like the creator of the first games here. It was called to like in the consulting job to see if everything was kind of okay with the legacy of the previous games. But yeah, still not launching this year. And I'm going to wrap up with some gaming deals. Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition, $3, 85% off. This is a very good game. It's an old game, but still the mechanics, it was not revolutionary, but they were very well implemented on the. This is basically like an open world action. You're like another undercover cop or whatever it is, looking for revenge of something that happened to your family. I think it's what it is. But it's very good game in terms of mechanic wise, and it's kind of okay in terms of graphics. It should work with any kind of GPUs and everything that we have now, current ones. But yeah, very overwhelming positive and very positive reviews here. This is one to try out if you have the time to. And again, I'm going to put again the Blasphemous one. It's still on promotion till 22. You got the download if you want to try it out and see if it's good, like the Metroidvania Dark Souls thing here. 75% off, $6, give or take. So I think it's a good recommendation. I wanted to try this one. I always get curious when this kind of games launches for me to try out. I also wanted to try Salt and Sanctuary Saga. It's kind of the same vein with different story and different background thing here. But yeah, that I will leave with these two gaming deals. Nothing more here that I didn't already mention in the previous day. And I'm going to wrap up for today with my GoGetFundMe for me to upgrade my PC to get better and more content for my private clients, and of course start doing some video work for them also. And in my free spare time doing the gaming and daily news that I'll be doing, and also doing some deep dives with some scripted content, resuming my gameplay series, and also in the near future maybe try to do some live stream or something like that. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. So until then, Kunamy Master out.